Hey, Slapdog! The Brainiacs are ready.
Welcome to LeatherBrainz, your host, Slap a Diggity Dog, and I am joined today by Scotty Del Rey. We're missing Alan Casanova Castro.
Damn.
We're missing our bright, shining star, Scotty. It's a sad day.
This podcast is nothing without Alan Casanova Castro.
Couldn't agree more.
I just want to say that.
Couldn't agree more. I don't really know what he's up to be honest.
I think he's working. I think he's doing something for work.
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
Why do we have to work?
Well, if the Brainiacs would step up a little bit and make us millionaires, we wouldn't have to.
That's true.
That's kind of on them. That's on you listening to this. This is your fault.
Yeah. All of you out there viewing and listening to this right now, shame on you for not.
You know what? Episode canceled. You don't deserve it.
We're done. This is over. We're not done, Scotty. We have some stuff to talk about today without Alan Casanova Castro. We got NFL news. There's not a ton to talk about, but really, I think we're going to focus quite a bit of this episode is going to be on the schedules, the schedule release, and the strength of schedule, and then some specific teams we're going to talk about as far as kind of what our projections are of them given their schedules. And then I think we're going to play Jeopardy again today, Scotty.
Yeah, Jeopardy was a hit, and we're geniuses. We made Jeopardy look so easy. The first time we did Jeopardy on this show, we did Kids Jeopardy because we were very certain that we were going to be very stupid. But we did pretty well, all things considered. Yeah. So we bumped it up to Teenage Jeopardy this time, and I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I assume it'll be harder slightly.
Yeah, I don't know, because I admittedly I feel like the Kids Jeopardy was kind of difficult, but and we got
some hard ones.
Yeah, I think we got most of them right. I think we only missed like one or two. So all things considered, we're smarter than a fifth grader. But the teenagers, I think that's where they could lose us. So we're gonna play that at the end, Scotty. But let's kick it off with the NFL news. We'll start with Nick Sirianni. He agrees to a multi-year contract extension following his Super Bowl win. I'm not surprised by this. I know Nick Sirianni gets a lot of flack by both Eagles fans and non-Eagles fans. I know you are a hater of Nick Sirianni. You do not enjoy Nick Sirianni whatsoever.
Because of his face.
So is his face?
Yeah, I've said that many times.
You have.
It's his face and the way that he acts. It really his personality and everything about him. That's what makes me hate him. So,
So with that in mind, is Nick Sirianni a good coach? Does he deserve this contract extension?
I don't know. Here's the thing. We NFL fans are very dumb people. All we like to do is watch. We'll find out when we play Jeopardy. Yeah, in this instance, and with questions like this, we do this all the time. You go over to our X page, and these are the types of questions that we're posing because we like to get people talking and get people involved in the conversation. But if we take a step back, we all recognize that this is an oversimplified question because, of course, when it comes to success in the NFL, whether you're a player or a coach, there are about 1 billion factors that go into it. I tend to think that Nick Sirianni is the benefactor of an awesome front office. I mean, this Eagles organization has put together the best roster in the NFL, and they've been doing that, building this roster for years. Nick Sirianni came in at the right time, and yes, he didn't burn the organization to the ground. Yes, they've had a lot of success. If you take his resume and put it on paper, of course he's a good coach, but I put him in the same camp as I do Dan Campbell. It's like, he's a coach. He's a player's coach. The players seem to like him well enough, and he can, not ruin the culture. In some cases, build up a culture, and they're finding success. So, yes, but I don't think it's because of his coaching. I don't think it's because of the X's and O's that he's putting on the playbook or putting on the whiteboard. I think it's a culmination of all these different things that lead to success, and he is just a part of it. So I would say technically, yes, he's a good coach, but I don't think their success is reliant on Nick Sirianni.
I agree. I think he's a nice looking guy. I think Nick Sirianni, when you look at his face, it doesn't bother me. I think he is handsome. I think overall Nick Sirianni is a good looking dude. So I'll start there. But I also think that in terms of coaching, I agree with you, by the way, especially, I asked this question and the first thing that came to my mind was, I really do think that Nick Sirianni has been a huge benefactor of Howie Roseman and a great front office. I really do. And I don't think you can argue that. I think that if you look at what that front office has done for the Eagles as far as building that team, yeah, they put on a masterclass of how to build a contending Super Bowl team and continue to do so year over year. And so, yes, I think all of that certainly plays a part in it. However, I guess really what you have to think about is what do you define as a good head coach? Is it the X's and O's? Is it building a good culture? And those are things that I think everybody has different skills and attributes from a head coaching standpoint that weigh into that conversation. Yeah, I think no matter what, you have to have the locker room, right? Like, and that doesn't matter where you are. If you don't have the locker room as a head coach, then you're out. And look at the Raiders those last few years, and their prior head coach before Pierce. I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Yeah,
he was a Patriot. He was with the Patriots. I can't remember his name.
I'm also drawing a blank on his name.
But Pierce won that job because he won the locker room, right? And he wasn't a good X's and O's guys, and he kind of fizzled out. But before Pierce, we could look this up. We do have the internet.
McDaniel?
Yes. McDaniels. Yes.
It was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah. He didn't have a locker room. He wasn't great with the X's and O's. And so I think no matter what, you have to have that, like, the culture and the buy-in from the team. I think that's step one. But beyond that, yeah, the X's and O's are a plus, but I would argue that doesn't have to be the determining factor to make you a good head coach or not. Does that make you good at the game of football from a skill standpoint and a mental acuity standpoint? Yes, but is Nick Sirianni those things? I wouldn't say he's the best, but I also wouldn't say he's the worst. And yeah, he's had a benefactor of having a great front office, but also he's getting the job done. He's continuing to find success. The Eagles are continuing to find success with Nick Sirianni. So, yeah, I would say he is a good coach. If you took Nick Sirianni and you put him on a different team, does he find that much success? Probably not. But just because he's not a class act at the X's and O's doesn't mean that he's still not getting the job done. So, yeah, I would say given all of the situation of Nick Sirianni, this doesn't surprise me signing him to a multi-year contract. And if I was Howie Roseman, I would, because he's continuing to find success. And I mean, just a few years ago, he lost both his offensive and defensive coordinator. He lost Jonathan Gannon, and he also lost the OC for he's now the head coach for Shane Steichen. He lost both those guys. And yeah, did they have a little bit of a down year when he lost both those guys? They did. And then he said, okay, we got to retool and do some different things here and get some different people in here. And then they found success. They found, more success. So he's still finding success while his coaching tree is starting to expand in some ways. And I think that in and of itself is, attributes to him and the Eagles' success. So all's to say, put a bow on it. I do think Nick Sirianni is a good coach. I do think he deserves a contract extension. And just because he's not the Chiefs head coach, and you wouldn't want that for the Chiefs, doesn't mean that he's not a good head coach for the organization that he is currently employed under.
Yeah, I mean, again, you take his resume, and there's no doubt that he's a good head coach. The question is, why is the resume the way that it is? And that's the age-old question when it comes to team sports, because there are so many factors that go into success. You can't – I think it would be insane to attribute all of the success that the Eagles have had to Nick Sirianni, but certainly he's played a part in it. The question is whether or not he's played a major part in it, and that I think still remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you're finding success, you want continuity, and there's no other option than to sign him to a multi-year contract.
Yeah. We're talking about contracts. Let's talk about the king, Scotty. Mr. Derrick Henry himself has signed a 2-year extension with the Ravens, in which Derrick Henry has said he's appreciative of that. This man... I mean, God, another 2-year extension. He's what, 31 this year?
Something
and he's showing no signs of slowing down. He's 31 years old. That's wild.
His position with the Ravens is so much better than with the Titans, obviously.
Sure.
When the team, Derrick Henry as an aging running back, it's good now that he is on a team with a lot of weapons and with a star quarterback that they can rely on. So Derrick Henry doesn't literally have to carry the entire offense on every drive. And that's good. And I think the signing makes a lot of sense because obviously Derrick Henry's a beast, but more importantly, this is a team that does not have to hand the ball to him 35 times a game to win. And so you can utilize Derrick Henry sparingly, keep his legs fresh, and when you're on a team like that as a running back, you can save your legs for so much longer into your career because you don't have to carry the weight of the team on your shoulders.
Sure, but if you go look at how many times the Titans ran Derrick Henry and how much usage he already has on him, to be 31 years old and still be playing at a high level at a position that typically you see like 27, that's kind of the cliff where they start to like they're aging themselves. I mean, we're all aging ourselves out every day, but they are in their position to the point where they're not going to play at a high level anymore. 31 years old, Ravens signed him to another 2-year deal. And I was really I'll be the first to admit, I was slightly skeptical when he did originally sign with the Ravens. And I was like, I think we're going to start to see him decline a little bit. And that was the exact opposite. And yes, you are right. They are able to use him a little bit more sparingly. I think Justice Hill kind of got worked in with the Ravens a little bit, and they were preserving a little bit of Henry more so than certainly the Titans did. So I think that is a very valid argument on all of that. But 33 years old as a running back, that's insane to me. Because that's such a high contact, high demand of the body position. To be able to do that at that age is just tremendous. So congratulations to him.
And the Ravens are also at a point where it makes sense to retain people like Derrick Henry, even though you might have some aging assets or whatever. They're at a point now where they're up against the clock in terms of how the NFL community is going to view their franchise in the Lamar Jackson era, because they just haven't taken the next step to become that elite team. They're a team that nobody wants to play. They're a team that you're never surprised if they win their matchup. But I don't see any rings, and I see a lot of poor playoff performances over recent years. So with them, they're like, listen, we don't have time to go into a rebuild. Like we're not gonna start moving a bunch of major pieces around. We signed Derrick Henry, he did well. Let's just keep him around for a couple more years and see if we can push this ball over the goal line before it's too late.
I think it is too late. I don't think Lamar Jackson will ever win a Super Bowl ring. I've said that before on this show, and I will reiterate that. I firmly do believe that Lamar Jackson will never win a Super Bowl ring. However, Brock Purdy might, maybe. Who knows? Mm-hmm. He just inked a 5-year deal, Scotty. $265 million extension with the 49ers. This comes as no surprise to the LeatherBrainz hosts. We have been talking about Brock Purdy a lot this offseason. We've been talking about how it's just a matter of time. But really what we were interested in is, what are they going to pay him? Is he going to be the top dog from a quarterback's financial standpoint perspective? He's not. He's certainly in the top 10, but I want to say he was ranked 7th on a year-to-year contract with in terms of highest pay of quarterbacks. And here's the list, Scotty. We still have Dak Prescott at the top at $60 million a year, Joe Burrow at 55, Josh Allen at 55, Jordan Love at 55, Trevor Lawrence at 55. You got Tua at 53.1, and then you have Brock Purdy at 53. So that puts him 7th in line as far as the highest paid quarterback on a yearly basis. I saw so many people over on X.com, the Everything app. I saw so many people just saying this was a terrible decision. This was a bad move. Brock Purdy's not a good quarterback. And it almost, I got kind of mad reading that, because how ignorant and dumb some people are. Is Brock Purdy Josh Allen? Is Brock Purdy Joe Burrow? No, he's not. Is he getting paid as high as them? No. But regardless, Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, and I think there's a couple things that came to mind when I was seeing all this hate towards Brock Purdy. First and foremost, I think there's a lot of draft bias still baked into Brock Purdy, because if Brock Purdy was drafted in the first round, I don't think any of us are sitting here saying this was a bad choice. I think because he was Mr. Irrelevant, he was the last guy in the draft, he is always going to carry that with him for the rest of his career in the NFL, and people are sitting there thinking to themselves, you got this guy at the very end of the draft, he's not worth it. And very clearly he is. He's finding a lot of success with the 49ers. Did they have a down year last year? Absolutely. Did they have a lot of injuries last year? Absolutely. But Brock Purdy is showcasing, is he a systematic quarterback? That's another thing that I've seen people say. Yeah, he is. He is very much a systematic quarterback. But my point being is it's working. It's working with Kyle Shanahan. It's working with the 49ers. It's working with Brock Purdy. I don't understand the hatred towards this move. I don't think Brock Purdy's a world breaker when it comes to quarterback, but I think there's certainly worse options out there at the quarterback position, and they're finding that it's working, and it's working for them. And I think to put the cherry on top in this argument for me is, this is the new normal for quarterback contracts, period. And so when people are sitting there saying this is an outrageous overpay, this is the market. This is the new market, and the cap space isn't real, but it only goes up. And so intrinsically, you are going to have to pay quarterbacks more money to keep them on your team. I don't understand why everybody is so up in arms about this. I think that if you are, you need to take a real good look in the mirror and actually come to the realization that Brock Purdy is not only not a bad quarterback, but this is just the quarterback market these days, and you're going to have to pay him if you want to keep him around on your team.
Yeah. I don't understand the Brock Purdy hatred at all. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You look at this team, obviously, maybe it's just recency bias. The 49ers had a tough year with all the injuries that they had. But we've seen this team basically be, if they won a couple more games, we're talking about this 49ers team being a dynasty. We're talking about them being consistently the best team in the NFL or right in that conversation. And Brock Purdy stepped into the fold, and none of that changed. And last year, the down year that they had was not at all due to Brock Purdy's play. It was due to all the other factors that happened to this team, unfortunately. I would just like to ask these people, like, what's the alternative? What would you have done?
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of teams in the NFL who need quarterbacks who would love to pay Brock Purdy to come join their team. So what would you have done as the 49ers? You would have said, well, I guess we're going to have to draft Jackson Dart or someone and just hope that it works out. Like, we're just going to have to draft some guy and hope that it works out, or try and acquire some free agent. It's like, you have your solution. Like, it has worked. It's proved to be worked. And by the way, George Kittle's not getting any younger. CMC's not getting any younger. You have the weapons right now to make another push. Why would you upend everything at this point in time? Brock Purdy is, he's not the best quarterback in the NFL, but he is up there. And I would much rather be in the 49ers situation with Brock Purdy than the Jaguar situation with Trevor Lawrence, where you got this guy that everybody expected to be awesome, and you had to pay him a bunch of money, and you did pay him a bunch of money, and guess what? You don't have any results. Brock Purdy's already been to a Super Bowl. I don't know if you remember that. Like, this guy came out of nowhere, and he won the job in this locker room, and he earned it. And he earned every single cent, and I'm super happy for him, and I think that the 49ers made the right call, and I guess we'll have to see how it plays out, but I just don't see a valid alternative. Like, this was the only option.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because there is no other alternative. There's no other alternative other than to sign him. And I don't think you can make that same argument for every single franchise. And you look at the Giants, right? Like, if the Giants had their quarterback right, like a Daniel Jones, if they still had Daniel Jones right now and they needed to re-sign him, and I'm using this as an example, if they still had Daniel Jones, he was on the last year of his contract, that they're in a much different situation than the 49ers are currently in, right? Like, the Giants, they're going nowhere fast. They got Malik Neighbors, and that's about it, right? So, yeah, they're probably at that point they can walk and say, you know what, it isn't worth us to spend this money on this mediocre guy that we're not going to keep around because we're not even close to being able to compete at the moment. The 49ers are not in that situation. They are in a win now mode. They are in a very much we can still compete at a very high level. Why would you forfeit that? Would you rather have Sam Darnold be your quarterback? Because I certainly wouldn't if I was the 49ers. And that's kind of where that's the game you're going to play, is do we go get a mediocre, fringe starter for a year or two while we figure it out, and then we re-roll and we still have to hope and pray that whatever quarterback we draft is going to be worth it? Or do we dance with the devil we know in Brock Purdy? And it's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. So there was no other alternative. And we've been saying this for months. I mean, we knew that Brock Purdy was going to get signed. And really what I was interested in, as I mentioned at the beginning of this tangent, was how much are you going to pay him? Because that's going to be a really interesting thing. And if you paid him as the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, I think the NFL community would be in even more of an uproar. So in some ways, I'm kind of glad that they didn't. But also, I think this was the right move for them. So
yeah, I mean, given the situation that the 49ers are in, it would have been crazy for them to make him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But being in that conversation, being in the top 10, like, that's not only reasonable, but it's expected. Like, what else are you going to pay him? Other teams, how much money do you think the Raiders would pay for Brock Purdy? They would pay him whatever he wanted. To have a young quarterback who has already had on-the-field success that they could count on for the long term. Yeah. Like, the Raiders would make Brock Purdy the highest-paid quarterback in the NFL for a 5-year deal. Like, no doubt about it. So if you're the 49ers, you're like, okay, we either sign this guy to a relatively high contract, but something that's kind of right where he should be, or we let him go and we just cross our fingers that it works out. Like, that's an insane argument to make. These people on X.com, the Everything app, are dumber than ever before.
Lions defensive line coach Casey Rogers says Aidan Hutchinson's leg, quote, looks really good in return to practice.
Cool.
I'm here for it. Aidan Hutchinson is becoming my new favorite NFL player. The dude is an absolute monster. I was very sad to see that he got injured at the end of last season. So I'm glad to hear that he's making his recovery and the Lions are going to come back in full force.
I don't know if you saw the video. There were a couple videos that came out throughout the offseason of him like trying to work out through this injury, and you could obviously tell that his leg was fucked up. And people were like commenting on the videos and being like, "Oh my gosh, he's never going to be the same again." And hopefully that's not the case, but it's just funny to hear the coach come out and be like, "Yeah, he looks great." Like after all these people were like, "Oh my God, he's going to be dead." No, obviously, we all want Aidan Hutchinson to be healthy. He's a very scary human being, and I don't like playing against him. But man, he should have a Hall of Fame style career, and I am rooting for that to happen. So
yeah, I am as well. Scotty, I'm gonna hand the microphone over to you. You want to talk about the schedule release? I know you're a huge fan of these. Last year, you thoroughly enjoyed almost every single schedule release that NFL teams had shared. So I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, we got a real problem in our society in the social media era with big brands trying to be funny, like trying to insert themselves into the culture and be like, "Yeah, we're one of the kids. Look at us." And the NFL's done this for a few years now, where they do these schedule release traditions where they release these videos that they paid some 16-year-old to make, and they're almost always terrible. There's like a handful that are like passable, but even the passable ones, it's not like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited for the NFL schedule release video. I can't wait to see what the Miami Dolphins say about their schedule." Who gives a shit? Just put out your schedule. It's so unbelievably stupid. But the headline this year, and there's always some headline with some team doing something dumb. The headline this year is the Colts put out their schedule release video, and it was Minecraft theme, which is already like a giant red flag. Like if you're an NFL exec, can you imagine like a 60-year-old white-haired NFL exec, and he has this 18-year-old like intern come into his office and hand him a USB drive. You gotta check this out, and he opens it up and it's Minecraft themed. And he's like, "What the fuck are we doing?
We're going
what are we
back to the mines. It's where I started."
It's unbearably cringy, and they always are. And in this particular one, the Colts opened up their schedule release video with some Minecraft depiction of Tyreek Hill getting arrested by the U.S. Coast Guard. And obviously that was a callback to when Tyreek Hill got arrested in the street. And then everybody freaked out about it because, I don't know, racism or whatever. When Tyreek Hill got arrested, everyone's like, "Oh, cops are racist because Tyreek Hill is black and he got arrested." It's like, okay, people get arrested every day. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But the uproar was enough that the Colts had to come out and apologize to Tyreek Hill and say, we're sorry that we made a Minecraft version of you getting arrested. Like, that was very offensive of us, and, we're terrible people. And they probably had to fire the 18-year-old because he made this Minecraft video. Ultimately, the video is very stupid. The whole video is dumb, as they all are. And Tyreek Hill, for his part, came out and basically said, "Yeah, whatever, I accept your apology. I thought the video was kind of funny. I laughed when I saw it." So, I don't know. Everybody just needs to chill out. But if you are an NFL team and you are going to put out a stupid video and you're going to make fun of people in the video, at least have the courage, like the conviction. We're not asking you to be Jesus Christ and die on the cross. What we're saying is that you should just accept that you're making a joke and making fun of somebody, and people are going to get mad about it, and you could just flip them the bird and say, "Deal with it. It's the NFL. We're all having fun." Like, just stand by your jokes.
No, I agree
Don't
with that.
apologize.
Like when, I can't remember what team did it last year with Justin Tucker in the kitchen making like baking a cake or doing something in the oven or something
Harrison
like that.
Butker, I think.
Or yeah, excuse me, Harrison Butker, not Justin Tucker. It was
Don't
the
mix those two up.
Yeah,
anymore.
well. Yeah, and like everybody was up in arms about that, and you didn't hear a team apologize for it or anything like that. And those are the kind of things, like, if you're gonna, I agree. I think the schedule release videos are really stupid because I don't have the time or wherewithal to look at all 32. I'll go look at the schedules, but I'm not gonna sit there and watch a 10-minute long clip about you releasing them. So, yeah, just stand by what you did, because everybody, that everybody in that organization watched that video and they probably got a good laugh and are like, "I like that. Like, that Tyreek Hill thing is funny." And so
we're fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
look at us.
Which is fine.
So
lean on it, lean into it, do it, and then be like, "Yeah, we did that. That was funny. It's all good." Like, who cares? So, yeah. Was there any that like stuck out to you? Did you watch any of them? There was one that I liked, and it was Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't watch a single one of them besides this one, because it's the only one that was relevant that we were going to talk about today. Because they're literally, I can think of about 1 billion things I would rather do with my life than watch some corporate video depicting Minecraft version of Tyreek Hill getting arrested.
No.
Like I would rather cut my own fingernails off. I would rather, well, that was supposed to sound brutal, but we all cut our
most people
fingernails.
do that people daily cut their fingernails, Scotty.
Yeah, I was thinking more on like a Vietnam POW style.
Rip them out.
Yeah, rip your fingernails out.
Yeah.
I'd rather do that. Yeah.
That sounds pretty.
So no, I
pretty
didn't watch
extreme.
them. Yeah.
To just watch. I think I'd rather watch a 3-minute clip than rip my nails out. But the Rams one, I liked Brenda's song. That was good. But the one that I actually got a chuckle at was the Bills one. So the GM calls Josh Allen. And by the way, I love it. They did one last year with Josh Allen at a construction site, and I think Josh Allen has a great movie career after the NFL, because he just goes with the flow, and I love Josh. So GM calls Josh Allen. Josh Allen is shooting hoops, and he answers the phone, and he's like, "Hey, we're trying to figure out what we want to do for our schedule. You got any ideas?" And he goes, "Yeah, just use AI." And the GM's like, "Just use AI." And Josh is like, "Yeah, dude, I don't have time for this." He goes, and he's shooting hoops, and he goes, just use AI, man. And so the camera pivots over, and the GM's looking kind of confused, and he starts typing on his computer, and he goes, "Just use AI, okay." And then the clip cuts to Allen Iverson, AI, and he's like, "Hey, I don't even know what I'm doing here." And he's like, "Yeah, man, will you do the schedule release video for us?" And he just holds up a piece of paper that has all the the schedule, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, here's the release video for the Bills." And he's like, "All right." And then the GM goes, Can I get a go Bills from you before we get off?" And he goes, "Go Josh Allen." And that one was funny to me because it was short. It wasn't methodical, and they put a bunch of time into it, but it was creative, and I got a chuckle out of it. So if there was one that I had to pick, it would be the AI one.
It's crazy that that's the top standard, because that is terrible.
Yeah,
Terrible.
but I think it's just tradition.
The Josh Allen one from last year was kind of funny. At least that one was kind of funny, and it was him pretending to be Chris Pratt from Parks and Rec, and that was the whole thing in the pit. And so that one, maybe it was only funny to a select few people who knew the reference, but that one was at least kind of funny. It wasn't some computer generated bullshit.
Yeah. Well, okay. Schedule release. I think it's a rite of passing. I think every year a team has to do it, and I'm not saying I agree with you.
Here's what I would like the Chiefs to do. I didn't watch the Chiefs this year because I didn't watch any of them, but I would like the Chiefs to put Patrick Mahomes, or better yet, put Andy Reid on camera and just say, "Just look at our schedule. Well, I'm not going to make you a video. You can type it into your fucking computer. Just watch it. Just look at it. That's all you got to do." And then that's just the whole thing.
No, here's what you do. You have Andy Reid. You give him the schedule, and you just have him read off the schedule, and then just give his prediction for win or loss. And then he'll just say win every single game, and then it's
okay, that's a good one. That would be funny. He just goes, "Yeah, win.
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 4 touchdown win. Blowout."
Win. Yeah. And then that's just the end of the video. That would be funny.
Yeah.
I think that would. I think we're really missing our calling here as marketers.
Maybe. I don't know. It seems like I've ruled that out already. We're gonna have to cut out the last 10 minutes of this podcast if we're gonna do that.
That's true. If we put this on a resume and people come back and look at all of the hate and the shit talking, then we're kind of screwed on that one. Well, but we are talking about the schedule release, so let's talk about the top winners and the losers in regards to strength of schedule. So the winners, or the ones deemed with the easiest schedule, starting out with the 49ers. They have, in ranking, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL. Okay.
So, well, before we get into this, we talked about this last year at this time. The strength of schedule thing is kind of bullshit, because this is just basing it on the win percentages of the teams that they're playing from last season. So obviously we know a lot of teams can change. So on this list, I compiled 4 winners and 4 losers based on not only the schedule, but the situation that the teams are in. So you mentioned the 49ers. The 49ers are a team, if they are healthy, with combined with having a schedule that they should win a lot of games, this is a team obviously that we've seen it all play out before. We know that they are capable of having a lot of success, and then you add on to that having an easier schedule. This is a team that could very well be competing for a Super Bowl, this upcoming season.
As they should. So we have the 49ers at the easiest schedule. It ranked at 30th. We have the Patriots, and I'm kind of looking at their schedule here. The Patriots are interesting to me because they're kind of they're an up and coming team. I do expect Drake May to take a lot of steps forward. They signed Stephon Diggs. They went and got themselves a running back in this draft, but they're kind of at this. I wouldn't necessarily expect them to win these games, but I wouldn't be surprised just looking at their schedule. I mean, it is rather. I've looked at some of the harder schedules that we'll discuss here in a moment, and those are daunting. But from the Patriots' perspective, I just don't know where I rank the Patriots because I in regards to like this year's success. I think that Drake May is the guy. I think they're going to find success. But this year's really interesting. I expect with Mike Vrabel there, I think he's leaps and bounds ahead of Gerard Mayo as far as head coaching ability. So I expect them to see steps taken to start to find success. But I think that even just this year, I don't know if I have the Patriots really doing a lot of damage.
Well, I'm pulling up the schedule, and for some reason it's taking me a very long
I have
time.
it here. You want me to read it?
No, I'm gonna read it for myself.
You read it, boy.
All right, so let's just go through this real quick. Just gut reaction.
Okay.
Patriots versus Raiders. Who wins?
Raiders.
See, I think here's what I'll say. I think the Patriots are going to be capable of beating the Raiders handily. But again, like you said, it wouldn't surprise either of us if the Patriots are still pretty subpar this season.
I think the Raiders are going to be good this year. Good.
No.
We'll put an asterisk around that. I think the Raiders are going to be much improved, and I think they could beat the Patriots this year.
So I'm going to put a win for the Raiders. I'm going to
Okay.
put a loss for the Dolphins. I'm going to put a win for the Steelers. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be yet.
It's Aaron Rodgers. We all know it's Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going to put a win for the Steelers. I'm going to put a win for the Panthers.
I'll put a loss for the Panthers.
Bills are going to lose. Saints, they're going to win. Titans, they're going to win. Browns, they're going to win. Falcons, it's a toss-up. Lean toward loss. Buccaneers, they're going to lose. Jets, will probably be a win for the Patriots.
I'll put the Patriots winning against the Jets.
So either way, looking through the schedule, I'm seeing an above 500 season for the
And I think that's I would agree. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. So
are they a playoff team this year though? I lean towards no.
I agree with that. But the reason I put them on the winners category list is because we expect this to be a team with Drake May taking a step forward with the acquisition of some other weapons. We expect this team to be categorically better than they were last season. And then obviously you have the addition of Mike Vrabel. And then you combine that with a relatively easy schedule. They just have to manage to beat the teams like the Raiders that they feasibly could do. And if they can string together those wins, this is a team that could very well outperform expectations for the 2025 season.
Okay, well, this next team we're going to talk about is probably in a very similar boat, being the Panthers. They have the 28th ranked easiest schedule. And I'm looking at the Panthers schedule right now, and this is another one kind of similar to the Patriots, where I don't know how I really feel about the Panthers. And I think they're headed in the right direction. I do think, if you would have asked me in the middle of the season next year where the Panthers are going, I would say nowhere fast. But with them, bringing Bryce Young back off the bench, he looked like a completely different NFL player. He looked like a competent, good quarterback. And there were a lot of games that the Panthers were in, and they maybe should have won. And one that comes to mind is the Chiefs. Like, they were hanging in with the Chiefs, and I remember that game, and I was like, are the Panthers about to beat the Chiefs right now? And it's any given Sunday, et cetera, et cetera. I do think the Panthers are headed in the right direction, but I still don't know if this is going to be a year where they take a lot of those steps forward. I think them drafting McMillan is a huge step for them because they needed some wide receiver help. They have Chuba Hubbard, which I'm actually very excited about in the run game, and I think that Bryce Young is going to continue to take those steps forward, but I don't know where I kind of feel about this team as far as are they competent? Was that, lightning in a bottle situation that second half of last year? So I don't want to get too high on the Panthers, but I am optimistic that they will take those steps forward. And from a strength of schedule standpoint, I'm looking at this. Wouldn't surprise me if they go right at 500. I think anything more than that is maybe a little bit of a reach, but I do think just looking at the schedule here, 500 is not out of the realm of possibility for the Panthers this year.
Yeah, I've talked about Bryce Young before, but it all comes down to Bryce Young. I mean,
yes.
If he reverts back to how he looked when he first entered the league, they're obviously going to struggle. If he continues to find the success that he found at the tail end of last season, then they could be better than expected. But having a relatively easy schedule is going to help that.
Yeah.
It's going to up the opportunity. And that's really what this winners list is about. It's about an opportunity that they have available to them to capitalize on.
Well, let's keep the train rolling, Scotty, and keep saying some nice things, because we're going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals here next. They have the 27th ranked easiest schedule here. I mean, I when the schedule came out, I immediately went and looked at the Cardinals to see who are we playing, what is this outlook gonna be like this season. And, granted, we're in a tough division, and I understand that. And so, obviously, we're going to be playing the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers quite a few times. But who are our other opponents? We got some. I don't want to call them layups, but we got some nice teams to play here. Weeks, I think going into week 3, bare minimum, we could be 2-0, and potentially, if we can beat the 49ers, be 3-0. We play the Saints and the Panthers for the first 2 games, and I expect both those to be wins. I think the Seahawks are going to be bad this year, so I think we can beat them in the division. The 49ers and the Rams are really the 2 that I'm concerned about, but. We play the Bucks, the Jaguars, the Cowboys, the Packers, the Colts, the Titans. So there's some layups in there. There's some difficult games in there, and there's some let's see where we're at midway through the season kind of thing in there. Another team that I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis here, but I want to be in the playoffs so bad, and I don't want to ruin our chances and jinx us by saying I think we could go to the playoffs this year. I think we could. The Cardinals are an interesting one.
They are an interesting one. And again, it's just the opportunity, because maybe it's just the hopeful optimist in me for the Cardinals. But, you expect some of these weapons like Marvin Harrison Jr. to take a step forward. You hope that if the other weapons are taking steps forward, they kind of bring Kyler Murray along, and Kyler Murray can start playing up to his highest potential. And if that happens, the Cardinals could be a much improved team. Obviously, this is a team still with kind of a lot of question marks, most of them surrounding Kyler Murray and whether or not he is capable of bringing them to the next level. But just looking at the first 7 weeks of the season, you guys, on a conservative, maybe not conservative, I think on a fair estimate, you guys could be 5-2 going into week 8.
That would make me stiff. I would be very stiff. That would be awesome. And I from a defensive standpoint, that's really where the Cardinals have loaded up at this year. We've done a lot to bolster our defensive line. We drafted a couple defensive players, and so our secondary I think is going to be much improved. I don't want to get my hopes too high. I don't want to be like bought in and say we're going to be a great team. I feel myself getting bought back in and getting optimistic, and I always get fearful when this happens, because it's always when I get let down the most.
No. See, it's the opposite. We're a Nebraska fan. I'm a Nebraska fan. I assume that you are as well.
I am.
The funnest part of the season is before football starts, because then you're like, yeah, we're going to be so good this year. Like, we're finally going to do it. We're going to be so good.
This is our year. See, so but I get bought in with that with Nebraska. So then I get let down twice. And that's just not a place I want to get into.
But you have to enjoy that. But if you're going to lose, you might as well enjoy the optimism before it gets ripped out of your soul.
Cardinals are going to the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
There you go.
Amen.
There you go.
Amen.
Cardinals are going to the playoffs this year. Are we going to go to the Super Bowl? Probably not. But we're going to the playoffs. Are we a wild card team? Yes. Are we going to the playoffs? Yes. It's happening. 2025 Cardinals playoff bound, baby. Let's ride.
I like it.
Let's talk about some losers.
Let's start from the bottom.
Okay, let's start from the bottom. We have the Vikings with the 7th most difficult schedule. I mean, this one kind of sucks because they found a lot of success with Sam Darnold, and obviously the huge conversational piece with the Vikings is J.J. McCarthy the guy? Is J.J. McCarthy going to be able to sustain a high level of success like the Vikings found last year? And I think that's kind of where the Vikings maybe shot themselves in the foot a little bit, is they were just doing so tremendously well all season long with, their one-year quarterback, and now he's gone, and the question is can this really, for all intents and purposes, this rookie quarterback who's never taken an NFL snap be able to find a high level of success? And let's also not forget the Vikings are in a very difficult conference. The Bears, the Lions, and the Packers are all very, Bears, maybe you could put an asterisk there for the moment, but they're all expected to be really great teams, and that's just a difficult conference. So can J.J. McCarthy get it done? Kevin O'Connell certainly thinks so. But do you feel that way? Do you think the Vikings are going to be able to find a high level of success?
Yeah, the reason I put them on this list is because we know that the Vikings are a good team. We know Kevin O'Connell's a good coach. It all comes down to J.J. McCarthy. And unfortunately, when you have a quarterback who's never started a regular season game, it's just one big question mark, and you just have to cross your fingers and hope. So it really does suck that in their division, with how tough it is, that they have to just hope that J.J. McCarthy can come out and perform at or above expectations with a difficult schedule. And, looking through their schedule, they've got some games that they should win, but
it's tough.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
When you have to play the Lions, Packers, and Bears multiple times a year, that's at this point, that's a tough. That's really tough in and of itself.
Well, just look at this stretch. They'll play the Eagles, they'll play the Chargers, they'll play the Lions, they'll play the Ravens, they'll play the Bears, they'll play the Packers, all in a row, 6 games in a row. It's like
tough.
Even if J.J. McCarthy is pretty good, like every one of those games is going to be a grind. Every one of them is going to be a grind. So it's just, I don't know. Winning in the NFL is not easy. It's especially not easy if you've never done it before. So J.J. McCarthy, I hope you're up to the task.
Do you think the Vikings will finish the bottom of the division this year? Do you think that's out of the realm of possibility for them to be at the bottom of their division this year?
No, it's certainly not out of the realm of the possibility. I mean, it all comes down to J.J. We've seen quarterbacks all the time come into the league, and they're just kind of ass. Like, it happens more often than not. So, like, odds are that's probably going to happen. Odds are J.J. McCarthy is not going to come in and be Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. Like, odds are that's not going to happen. So, they are set up pretty well from a roster standpoint. Obviously, we're all fans of Kevin O'Connell. But if you don't have a good quarterback, it's very difficult to win. And we just have to wait and see. So, it's not out of the realm of the possibility. I think both of us would agree that it's either going to be the Bears or the Vikings at the bottom of this division.
Yeah.
And it comes down to quarterback play for both teams.
Who's at the top of the division?
I still think the Lions. I think the Lions, when everybody's healthy, is the best team in the NFL, the best roster in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Next up on this list here, we have at the 5th most difficult schedule, the Cowboys, which I'm here for, by the way. I want to see the Cowboys tailspin into sadness and despair every single year, and it's so fun to see them go to the playoffs and then immediately get thrown out of the playoffs. So I'm shooting for that again this year. And they do have somewhat of a difficult schedule. Admittedly, I'm looking at this. I think, they play the Giants, the Jets, the Panthers. I think those are all pretty easy wins. The Raiders, but then they also have teams like the Eagles, Lions, Chiefs, Chargers, Commanders. I don't think, if anything, I would almost argue the Vikings have a more difficult schedule than the Cowboys do, in my mind.
Yeah, it's all just based off of wins and losses from last year, so it's kind of irrelevant. It's just giving us a general idea. But the Cowboys are on this list because not only do they have a difficult schedule, but again, this is another team with so many questions. This is a team that on paper looked like they should be relatively competitive last season, and they were just pathetic. Just absolutely pathetic. Normally, we're used to the Cowboys having a good roster, dominating in the regular season, and then blowing up in the playoffs. And last season, we didn't even come close to that. If that's awesome. The standard, they were well below that standard. So I think the Cowboys offense with the addition of George Pickens, I do think that George Pickens is a little bit underrated when it comes to being a weapon, and I think he's going to make a pretty big impact for the offense. So I think there's a good chance that the Cowboys are much improved from what we saw last year. That's not saying a lot, but I think that will be the case. But ultimately, they're kind of becoming a little bit of a laughingstock, and they have been because they're the Cowboys, but sincerely, they kind of are a little bit of a laughingstock. And when you're in that situation and also, have the 5th hardest schedule in the league, that's tough.
That is tough. Looking at the 2nd most difficult schedule in the NFL is the Bears, Chicago Bears. And I'm just looking at this, Scotty. This is not fun. This would be, if I was Caleb Williams, I would be kind of just scared of this season. You've got the Vikings, Lions, Cowboys, Raiders, Commanders, Saints. Then you got the Ravens, Bengals. You throw in the Eagles and the Steelers in there, the 49ers. This is a really hard schedule for a team that everybody has pegged as, and I said this last week even, the Chicago Bears have won the offseason for the last 3 years. Every single offseason, the Bears are the winners every single year. And they did it again this year. They signed Ben Johnson. They're, Luther Burden. They got Loveland there. There's a lot of like building around this offense, and it all boils down to one singular question: is Caleb Williams going to succeed? That is the question at hand. And there was even chatter, I believe it was last week, about Caleb Williams trying to find his way out of getting drafted first overall. He had met with Kevin O'Connell. He's like, I want to go to the Vikings. The Bears, when you really look at the Bears from a quarterback standpoint, that's where quarterbacks go to die every single time. They cannot seem to figure it out at that quarterback position. And I think part of that's just developing a quarterback. They've never had anybody that can develop a quarterback. And Justin Fields, Mitchell Trubisky, there are plenty before them who they can never figure it out. So if I was Caleb Williams, I wouldn't have wanted to go to the Bears either, because that's where quarterbacks go to die. And so the question is, we all thought last year his dipshit of a head coach, Matt Eberflus, we're like, this guy needs to go. And he did. You got Ben Johnson. Will Ben Johnson be the savior, and will Caleb Williams be a good quarterback? Because that's ultimately what all of this boils down to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just as is the theme with these teams in the loser side. It's just question marks. Like, we just don't know. We don't know if Caleb Williams. We saw flashes last season. We also saw a lot of plays last year where he just looked totally lost on the field, and we don't know if that's him. We don't know if that's being a rookie. We don't know if that's Matt Eberflus. Like, there's just so many questions, and we don't know exactly how this team is going to come together. And you pair that with not only a tough schedule, but the high expectations. The expectations for the Bears are through the roof. We all said last episode that we're a Bears podcast and we're rooting for the Bears, and I'm still on board with that. But it's certainly one of those situations where, just like being a quarterback for the Bears, it's high risk, high reward, because nobody's really done it at a high level. But if you're the first one to do it, and you don't really have to, you just have to pass for like 4,000 yards. You don't have to top the league in terms of passing yards. You can pass for 4,000 yards, and guess what? You're solidified as the greatest quarterback in Bears history. So high risk, high reward. I hope it works out for him. I'd love to see the Bears really fighting.
Well, we
for
are
the
Bears
top of
podcast
this
year,
right? I know. I said that. I would love to see them fighting for the top of this division and have this division just be a total gauntlet. But a lot of question marks, and it's a little scary with the schedule and
do you think they will?
Coach. Yeah, we're a Bears podcast. I'm in. Let's do it.
I think they will. I mean, you look at. I mean, even Caleb Williams said he would watch tape, and like nobody was telling him how to study film, and like he would just watch it, just like we're watching a Netflix show basically, because nobody's coaching him and telling him how to do it. And I think that just that speaks volumes of how inept Eberflus and that coaching staff really was. Like, how are you not sitting there watching film together, breaking things down, and going over the why behind certain things? And it blows my mind.
Quarterbacks coach.
Yeah. That to me is insane. So I think Caleb Williams is a talented quarterback. I really do. I think he, despite the terrible coaching, Caleb Williams kept them in games that perhaps otherwise they should not have been in. And so with Ben Johnson there, I think that we're going to see a much improved Caleb Williams. Does that mean he's going to be, an MVP vote this season? I'm not banking on that, but I do expect improvement across the board with a competent offensive mind there.
Yeah, the good thing with, I'm still not sold on Ben Johnson. I sort of see Ben Johnson as the Kellen Moore of this season. You remember when Kellen Moore was getting all this praise for being this genius? It's like, yeah, he's probably good, but ultimately, when you are a coordinator on a successful team, there are a lot of things that go right to make you successful, and usually it's not just the coordinator. And yes, Ben Johnson demonstrated that he's creative on the offensive side, but he was creative on the offensive side with what might be the best or one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and on top of that, a ton of weapons, and on top of that, just an overall great roster. Like, so I still think Ben Johnson has a lot to prove. I don't think he's a lock for being a good head coach. The good news is it's almost a guarantee that he's going to be better than Matt Eberflus. So it's certainly an upgrade.
I think you could have gotten a homeless guy off the side of the road and it'd be an improvement for Matt Eberflus. I think that guy was a moron. Let's talk about the team with the hardest schedule in the NFL. And this is slightly breaks my heart. It's the Giants, Scotty. They've got a brutal gauntlet of a schedule. And I'm looking at it here. After looking at this schedule, I pose this question to you. will Brian Dable be the head coach at the end of this year going into next offseason?
Will he be, or do I want him to be?
Will he be?
Probably not.
I agree.
I think the fact that they drafted a rookie quarterback might buy him a little bit of time. Because we don't know exactly to what degree Jackson Dart is going to see the field this season. It might just be one of those things where they say, hey, we got a rookie quarterback. We don't have a ton of weapons. We're definitely in a rebuild situation. So let's just call this, let's just take the L for this season. Let's work to get better, and let's start preparing for changing this roster in positive ways going forward and into the future. That might happen, but if you're just basing it on, it depends on how the Giants ownership views their expectations for the season. If they're realistic about it, I think even without having one of the hardest schedules in the league, they could say, we can give everybody a little time. Like, let's just take a breath. We're not in a situation where we should expect to win a lot. But if they come out and say, well, if we win, they looking at the schedule, they realistically could win like 4 games. Like, I know that typically doesn't happen in the NFL. Most of the time you get some to fall your way. But like looking at the schedule, it wouldn't surprise me.
Week 5.
I don't know what they're favored, how many of these games they're favored, but I would guess that they're probably favored in like less than 5, if that.
Yeah,
so
Vegas odds on Giants.
And, of course, being favored in this point in the or in the offseason means nothing because nobody knows anything. But
over under 5.5 wins.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's what the line is currently set at.
That's about right.
I think by mid-season at the latest, you see Jackson Dart rolled out.
It seems like there's not.
You think Russell Wilson's going to get it done? And look, I'm a huge Jameis Winston supporter. I want Jameis Winston. I think the Saints should trade for Jameis Winston, bring him back home, and have him as their starting quarterback. That's what I think the Saints should do. Will they do that? No. If I was a GM, you can have all my first. Give me Jameis back. But I think that the other quarterbacks in the room. Jameis Winston's fun, but he's going to close his eyes and throw the football at the sun. And Russell Wilson's biggest asset is no longer in his tool belt. His biggest asset was his mobility, and that's gone. That's honestly, and I've actually
his biggest asset was having the best
Sierra.
Defense in the NFL. For the record.
Well, yeah, that too. Yes, but like as far as him and like what he's able to offer at the quarterback position, his mobility was certainly a huge component to his game, and that's just not there anymore. And so he's ate way too many $5 footlongs from Subway, which, by the way, terrible marketing ploy because now inflation, $5. That's every time I go to Subway, I think about it. And I'm like, I'm getting ripped off. This used to be $5.
That's true.
Inflation.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So I just want to throw that in there.
Thanks, Joe Biden. Oh, sorry. I forgot he's got cancer or something now.
Does he?
I think I heard that.
Oh.
I hope all is well, Joe Biden.
Okay. Yeah. We don't root for injury here on this podcast.
Right.
Political, NFL, or otherwise. But I've been watching quite a bit of film on Jackson Dart because I was very interested to see. Obviously, the Giants went back up into the first round to get him, and he was kind of the next quarterback. Very obviously, from a draft standpoint, he was the next quarterback off the board, but he was discussed as one of those higher top tier quarterbacks. The thing that I'm trying to figure out is Brian Dable. He came from the Bills, right? And I think we've said this here multiple times on the show. Brian Dable was the Josh Allen whisper. He kind of unlocked Josh Allen to be able to play at a high level because of Josh Allen's rookie year, we were all kind of like, I don't know if this is the move. And then Brian Dable kind of helped qualm those thoughts and showcase that Josh Allen can be a really great quarterback. I see a little bit of Josh Allen and Jackson Dart. The kid can move, and the kid... I was watching some of the plays, and he kind of plays like Josh. He's a big dude. He can move with his legs quite a bit, and he's not afraid to lower his shoulder and just freaking rip over somebody, kind of like Josh Allen plays. I just don't know. I genuinely don't know. But I think that like I said, week 8 or 9 at the latest, I think Jackson Dart rolls out if he doesn't already win the starting role in camp. Because... for a few reasons. One, I do think he's better than Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, and I think that will get showcased. But I think the other thing, too, is you kind of see this happen when coaches are on thin ice, where they're like, okay, let's do a quarterback change. That'll buy me a couple weeks and a little bit of grace. So perhaps that happens as well, alongside with the fact that you mentioned he is a rookie quarterback, right? So if they have to be going, you would hope that the front office is looking at this situation saying, we hit on Malik Neighbors. We know we got that. If we hit on Jackson Dart, and they got a defensive lineman at the very beginning of the draft as well, if the defensive lineman and the quarterback, those are like the two most important assets to an NFL team, because if you have a dominant defensive lineman, it changes the game for you from a defensive perspective. And if you hit on a quarterback, I really don't need to go into the details there. That's pretty obvious, right? So if you hit on both those, you really reset your franchise in a very favorable direction. And I think that you have to roll him out here to see, okay, do we have something in this guy? So I think halfway through the season at the latest, if not earlier, we see Jackson Dart come out here, and I'm really, really interested to see. I know the kid's mobile, and you can make that same argument for Daniel Jones. I think he has a better arm than Daniel Jones, and I think if he's got a little bit better of a mentality than Daniel Jones from a play perspective, he could maybe do some damage, and this could be their guy moving forward. So I'm optimistic on this move, but I'm also kind of afraid that the Giants will move on from Brian Daboll, because much like you, I don't want him to go. I don't think he should go. I think that there have been a lot of poor decisions from that front office that have kind of contributed to a very unfavorable team that is the New York Giants.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, ultimately, with the way that this team is constructed right now, unless their draft picks this season are like massive game changers, which is pretty rare, they're going to have a tough season. It's going to be tough. And it's going to take a little bit of time for Jackson Dart to get his feet under him ultimately. So I do hope, I think that everybody else outside of the Giants facility is on the same page. Like, okay, they're making moves. Let's see if it works out, and we'll slowly move toward becoming more competitive. The question is whether or not, the owner is going to be in that pay. I still think, we all watch Hard Knocks. I still think the owner's pissed about Saquon. He might just want everybody out the door. Like, he might just be like, we're done with these people. We're moving on to a whole nother group of people in the front office and coaches. So that very well could happen. But I hope Brian Daboll doesn't fall victim to this, because he's not the problem there.
I don't think he is, but I think that we continue to say that, and there's not change. And I think that you only get that for so long before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, it's true.
So.
Mike Tomlin's might be experiencing that pretty soon, too.
Yeah. Another great conversational piece for another time. Scotty, did we want to play Jeopardy today, or did we want to call it? I know we're actually getting closer for time than we originally thought we would.
Yeah, I think last time we played Jeopardy, we played it for like 30 straight minutes. So it might be best to save that for another way.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry for all you Brainiacs out there that were very interested in Scotty and I playing Teenage Jeopardy. We've upgraded and gotten smarter through the years. But we'll play it another day. Don't worry about it.
Maybe next week.
Maybe
you'll
next week.
Tune in to find out.
Yeah, amen. Before we go, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, give us a 5-star review if you are oh so generous. And go check out the Fantasy Brains as well. They're doing some really great stuff. They have a show that comes out on Thursdays, and they also do a lot of short-form content on both YouTube Shorts as well as TikTok and Instagram Reels. So go check that out. They are doing a tremendous job, and right now I am tuning into any piece of fantasy information I can get because it's the off-season. I'm hungry. There's a drought of NFL content. And I'm looking to retool my Dynasty League a little bit in fantasy football, so as well as kind of gear up for those redraft leagues that are coming, and it's going to be here before we know it, Scotty. So go check them out. Give us a 5-star. Hit the follow button. Let's get the heck out of here. I love you guys. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out LeatherBrainz.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.